You're tuned in to Repco Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Proudly brought to you by Repco, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Rizlone. This week, big burnouts and bigger banter. We catch up with the Mount Shop Wild Bunch, a crowd favourite comeback class gearing up for a busy summer. And we shed raid West Auckland's Slices and Dices, Chopper's Auto Body Shop. But first, thanks to those good folks at Maguire's, we're checking out one seriously cool new arrival, the Brizio-built Mega Deuce, a steel 32 stuffed with B&M blown and backed big block. It's a car that doesn't blur any lines when stating its intentions.
It's a hot rod. It goes like a hot rod, it sounds like a hot rod, and it looks like a hot rod, you know. And everyone's interpretation of what a hot rod is so different, but to me that car screams hot rod.
And this hot rod now calls GMS home, much to the delight of one enthusiastic caretaker.
Well, the car's not mine. It's a very good friend, Ian Taylor. He's kind of like a grandfather figure to me, you know. My grandfather passed away when I was 7, and when I see Ian, I think of my grandfather. It's something I kind of talked him into buying the car, and it's probably more my style than it is his style.
Yep, you see, Ian's generally more of a flathead and fenders type of guy, a founding member of the early Ford V8 Club of New Zealand and Pukekohe Hot Rod Club. But a man not immune to a bit of gentle peer pressure, it would seem.
I'd seen this car online. It was at pretty good money. He laughed, saying that his wife would kill him if he got another car. He also laughed when we talked about the fact that it had a blown big block. He's already got a big block car. We just kind of watched the car for about a month, and I worked on him for a month, and here we are.
And while the car's current care is a bit of a team effort, so too was its construction back in the mid-90s. Brizio is a name that needs little introduction in hot rodding circles. You don't earn the tag the Rod Father for nothing. Andy and now son Roy have built an enviable legacy of cars, many based around the iconic 32 Ford. Mega Deuce was the last in a series of 6 street rods commissioned in collaboration with B&M Racing. Taking inspiration from the 60s-era Kendrick Tudor, renowned auto artist Tom Taylor would create the concept renderings before the Brizio build was covered in the pages of Rod and Custom magazine. Brizio cars are built to be driven, but Mega Deuce would clock up just 2,000 miles before being offered up for sale by the second owner out to thin his herd. When the 32's price dipped into the too good to be true territory, that was all the convincing Ian needed to jump on it.
Brizio's perfected how to package a hot rod together, you know. It screams hot rod. Proportionally, it just does everything that I like. That was another selling point, I guess, for Ian, is that, yeah, like, you can't deny it's all hot rod. I asked Roy what inspired this car, and there was a car in the 60s owned by a guy, Phil Kendrick. It was orange, it was full fended, but it had Hellebrands on it. So that was kind of the kind of basis for this car. So it's positioned as a 60s era show and go hot rod. And in that mid-90s era, there was a thing called nostalgia, where they took nostalgia and gave it a new twist, hence the directional wheels and the stainless exhaust and things like that. It started with an original Henry Ford 32 Tudor body that was chopped 2.5 inches by Marcel Delay. It's got a Jack Hagman alloy hood on it, Dan Fink grille, full Brizio chassis, which has all tubular cross members in it and all that. Super Bell front end, Hellebrand Champ rear end, quite rare directional sweet swirl Hellebrand wheels on Hoosier tyres, and the B&M 510 big block Chevy with a turbo 400 from B&M as well. So B&M sponsored the blower, the gearbox, torque converter, shifter, and they built the car. One of the concerns I had was blowing big block 32 Ford, this thing's going to overheat and it's going to run poorly and all those sort of things. The thing had been in a shipping container by itself for 42 days. We rolled it out, hit the key, and the thing just started and idled and just sat there really nice. And yeah, like, the thing has really good road manners. Like, you can just idle down the road, or if you want, you can use all of that power, you know. It's very easy to get all hyped up about it being a Brizio car, but if you actually take that out of the equation, the car drives and performs and does everything it should so well. So full credit to the Brizio team for that, you know. What defines these cars to just being another hot rod is the soul that these cars have. So it's very easy to say, oh, 32 Fords, they're like a catalogue car and all that kind of stuff. But if you build them in a way that they're not a catalogue car and they end up being a car that has attitude and presence and grabs you when you see it or hear it or ride in it, then you've hit a home run. And that car does that. You know, it's built to a look, it's built to a style, it's got the history, and all we're going to do is just look after it and preserve it and add to the history of it being down here.
Right, thanks to Rizloan, we're in Riverhead, West Auckland, dropping in on Chopper's Auto Body Shop.
We're basically a restoration fabrication shop, so anything from normal restoration right up to custom and modifications and things like that. Not just American, not just Japanese, different makes and models which are all built a lot different than each other. Keeps your skill level moving up as well because you never stop learning as you're building something.
While it's a busy team operation these days, for the chap with his name on the door, it was first a hobby rather than a planned career choice.
Been into cars, hot rods, love just seeing the magazines or car shows and things like that. I left school pretty early, I had no qualifications whatsoever. I was pretty much going to go nowhere. Managed to get a job at a panel beaters, just grooming cars, and ended up getting an apprenticeship. Obviously being the apprentice, you get given the rust jobs because no one wants to do the rust jobs because it's too hard, too messy. So yeah, I learned a lot from different teachers, different panel beaters over the years. I think I was about 22 when I decided to go and open my first shop. Pretty much just keep building and building up. Yeah, doing what we love. It's definitely a dream job. Yeah, I wouldn't do anything else. I love what I do every day. I love coming to work, taking on new projects, finishing projects. It's just one of those things that, yeah, I couldn't do anything else. It is a dying art, metal fabrication. It's not being taught anywhere anymore. I mean, tech schools used to, they used to have English wheels and things like that, and you'd learn how to butt weld things and things like that. But with the late model vehicles and that, there's, people just buy a new part and replace it, and there's not a lot of metal skill involved anymore. It is a hard one, like it's not something you can sort of just pick up straight away. But in saying that, we're always learning, we're never not learning. So there are things that will challenge your skill level and go, well, how am I going to do this? But you soon, if you've got the motivation and the mindset of saying, there's always a way to make something, we'll just, you'll get there.
And in this game, a factory level finish is just the starting point.
Yeah, they do have their challenges. They do have a lot of factory faults with where they rust and what's sort of badly designed in them and things like that. You'll unstitch a panel off, take it off, and between the two seams where they meet, bare steel. There's nothing between it. We come across it all the time, and hence that's why they're rusting. We try and stick to a standard, whether it's a piece of floor that you're never going to see or an inner panel that you're never going to see. We really like to finish something to a standard of, like, you're going to see it from the outside of the car. That's just more us taking pride in our work, not trying to hide anything, just going, there's the piece, it's beautiful, it's welded in the car and it looks how it should.
Paint, however, will hide an enormous amount of work that's gone into getting this angry Pontiac GTO up to spec.
So the GTO came to us, pretty bad situation going on in the rear. Someone welded a chassis frame into the rear. The suspension setup was not right for the type of power the car was running and the size wheels and so forth. Basically, once that was cut out, we found more, and we found more. We had to make a call of, okay, let's just start again with it. So, which meant removing the rear quarter skins, the roof panel, rear parcel tray, basically all the sheet metal that we could sort of remove from the car. fabricated all the chassis rails and stuff in-house, put a new 4-link setup in the rear, reinforced into the vehicle how it should be to be strong and do its job. Lucky enough to get brand new rear quarters, rear panel, roof skin, all of the panels you see on it brand new. The rear quarters, you could not get the correct ones for this model, so hence on the rear of the tail light section we had to hand make that. In our eyes, you're dealing with new steel, you're not trying to clean up old rusty steel and weld to that, so it made it a lot easier. But it's going to be a really, really good looking car once it's done.
Metal fabrication might be something of a dying art, but it's great to see these old cars on the end of attention from a relatively young crew here at Chopper's Auto Body Shop. For Chopper, however, it seems whether he knew it or not, all this may have always been on the cards.
It's in my blood, yeah, it's what I want to do. Yeah, I can't keep away from being at work. I love being down here and working on cars, so yeah, nothing will ever change.
Protection of hybrid ceramic.
Whoa.
Now in 3 easy-to-use products. In original spray wax, now as a liquid wax, and a spray detailer. Meguiar's hybrid ceramic family with advanced SiO2 technology. Meguiar's, ceramic made easy.
Rizlone has been in engines almost as long as engines have been in cars. Why? Because from then until now, there's never been a perfectly clean fuel. This means every time you fill up, you're adding pollutants and contaminants to your fuel system. Rizlone Fuel Injector Cleaner can cure those woes and help save your engine. Rizlone Fuel Injector Cleaner adds an upper cylinder lubricant, providing double the cleaning power out of the same bottle. We know something about aging well, so when we say it's your engine's fountain of youth under a screw top, you can count on it. Rizlone is the original engine tune-up. Available at participating stores near you.
You're back with Repco Muscle Garage. Thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, it's time now to catch up with the Mount Shop Wild Bunch, a crowd favourite comeback class known for its wild passes, big burnouts and bigger banter. First dusted off back in 2019, the class is gearing up for a summer of racing.
Wild Bunch. Now, where Wild Bunch come from originally, sort of 30 years ago, I suppose, now there's a class called Wild Bunch. You know, it was hugely popular with the crowds. Basically, production-based sedans. They look like your average daily driver, but with huge monster motors sticking out of the bonnet, mostly. But the crowd could identify with them because it's what their grandfather maybe had or what they could see driving down the street. So I think that's what made them so popular in their day. And essentially what we've done is we've just recreated that. Same philosophy, I guess, something that everyone can recognise with and identify with.
These old girls were back in the 80s and very early 90s. As things progressed, we ended up with door slammer, which sort of pushed them to one side. And now there's more of these than anything else.
The hills were packed here and the fields were full and people flocked to the track and because it was something they enjoyed. And I think that went missing a little bit in the last few years. People come to the track and race and go home and you kind of lose that social aspect. And I think we're a small enough group as it is, so to bring everyone sort of together more, that's the ultimate aim just as much as the fun and the fast racing.
For the most part, these cars stay pretty true to the original formula. Those relatable body shapes and much of the pack running old school big block Chevy. Blowers are all but mandatory, and there's a few Hemis in the mix too. It's all about consistency. Racers can dial in between 6.99 and 7.99, and the goal is to run as close to that number as you can, but not quicker. Break out, and you're out. It's not all about the ET either.
If you win, you get a handshake. If you do a burnout to half track, you get some money. If you swap lanes, you get money. So it's not about winning, it's about entertaining the crowd. This class is about having fun, so it's got my name all over it.
Taking home the coveted and much contested Best Burnout trophy last time round was Steve Cowboy Carlson in his '64 Falcon.
Hard case. Yeah, good fun. really only in it for the after-match function, but we have to make a lot of noise and spend money to fill the day in.
Steve thought he'd kicked the drag racing bug, but after 33 years straight, fell off the cart in a big way.
When you get to the pointy end and you're going quite quick, there's a surprising amount of corners on that straight bit of road. Yeah, I guess it's just a challenge. I guess Joe Public doesn't understand that, you know, a tenth of a second's huge. And when you get it, you want another one, of course, or two would be better. Suits my attention span. As I get older, my attention span gets shorter, so I have to go faster, otherwise I'll forget what I'm doing. Yeah, with that, you've got to spend more money every year to keep going faster. So yeah, I guess that's what it is for me anyway.
And that go fast edge has meant there's been big changes in the off-season. Moulds were taken off the Falcon to make a light fiberglass body, while the Hemi was ripped out before the car was sold on. Grant Downing has been tasked with building a new chassis to sit under the new glass body. But with time marching on and Steve not keen to miss a season, a fill-in was acquired to stuff full of Steve's running gear, the ex-Mark Bardsley Camaro.
I had a shoulder operation and I was in hospital. I had time, had the internet and drugs, so yeah, it was the perfect cocktail really. By the time I came home, I ended up owning a Chev Camaro, so yeah. Yeah, we've got a bit of work to do to get our transmission. Obviously the engine's all good. We've got to change the headers, different heads from what Mark had, and we're putting our quick drive and B&J in it. But other than that, it's not too big a major, we hope. We'll get out there and go straight-ish, yeah.
However, with time ticking away and the Hemi not yet home from the engine shop, Steve had to get a bit creative.
Yeah, my engine's out of action, so we've got a new engine that we're going to put in to start the season with. So I don't know whether you want to have a look at that. This is something we've been working on to go in the Camaro. It's the way of the future apparently. The drawback, obviously it's electric. You've got to carry the batteries and weight's a killer in drag racing. So what we've been working on is what we like to call electron transfer through the atmosphere technology, where we park a big generator at half track, Bluetooth the power to the motor here, and this is twofold. This attracts the electrons and it also is attached to a boom box that supplies the sound of a proper engine. At this stage we're going to run a clutch on it, but the torque on an electric motor is quite hard to control, so if we have too much trouble with the clutch we'll go back to our quick drive and B&J with a real loose converter and try and get a bit of drivability out of it. So yeah, so this is a whole bunch.
Not far down the road and opting for a slightly more conventional approach is Kurt Gooden, new to the class this season with his Nova.
Mum and Dad used to take us to the aerodrome, and Dad's been into drag racing since Thunder Park days, and everyone says, oh, you're just driving in a straight line and you're doing this, but it's the noise, the smell, and back when we were sort of there, it was guys like Chris Tynan and Mark Thomas and Bobby Owens and those guys and those screaming superchargers, it just hit you and it never sort of left. So we started off and it was obviously only a big block Chev of a single car, but we did pretty well with that combo, and yeah, you just want more and more.
Kurt got a taste for the class last season, jumping in for the Burnout Challenge. He was already being peer pressured to bolt a blower onto the Nova before damaging the engine, so the off-season seemed time to go all in. And Kurt needed not a great deal of convincing to join the Wild Bunch ranks. The class appeal hard to ignore.
It's just pure grunt. It's the most horsepower you can fit in not a modern day car as such. A lot of them are still mild steel chassis, which were how they were built back in the day. A lot of them were street cars and they just, oh, I've got a blow-on alcohol motor here, we'll chuck that in there and see what happens. General public can come there and go, oh, that's a 57 Chev, or that's a 64 Falcon, or that's a 70 Nova, or that's a 33 Willys. Where you get to the likes of funny cars and stuff like that, and they're hard to determine exactly what they are apart from the badge on the front of them. And even some of these pro mod cars, they're that modified, you can only tell by the grille and the headlights and what they've got written on them basically. So yeah, these are basically cars that were on the street at some time in their life, apart from Ryan's, that's pretty bloody ugly, but each to their own, and yeah.
The move to Wild Bunch meant the single-car big block was now due for a supercharger. But plans took a big old jump when Kurt's engine builder offered up the long block from his top door slammer, just as good mate J.D. Shepherd put his 1471 up for sale. And so this slippery slope started.
So it's got a 515Q big block Chev, rear Morrison Raptor spread port heads, dart block, all the fancy shit inside, 1471 Mooneyham blower, obviously Enderley injection. We'll still run the Power Glide transmission. I think the coolest thing for us is we're going to keep running the Outlaw 10.5 tyres, which a lot of people have told us we won't be able to get the car down the track. They may be right, we may not be able to get the car down the track, but it's going to be good fun trying to get it down there. The Wild Bunch class states 699 to 799, so we'd be happy with a 799, I think. You've got to be there to sort of understand it, especially if you get a chance somewhere like Merry to be at the top end of the track and hear those concrete mixers coming down the track screaming at you. You can't beat that with turbos and Pro Chargers. It just does not sound the same. They don't sound right. This is how drag racing started, and it's always going to be the best.
The Mount Shop Wild Bunch returns to a track near you from 2022. First up is Wild Bunch Wars at Masterton Motorplex on January 2nd and 3rd. Your ride needs some love? We've got you sorted. Thanks to our mates at Maguire's, we have this massive complete car care pack worth over $760 to give away. Plus, a $500 Mount Shop voucher to keep the underside ship-shape too. And to top it off, 1 year subscription to NZ V8 magazine. To enter, simply head to themotorhood.com and hit the Repco Muscle Garage link. The winner will be drawn at the end of the series. Easy. During this year's Repco Supercars Championship season, the garage is your go-to place for all things supercars and motoring. Exclusive content, special guests, and your chance to win amazing experiences at the track. Register your interest today. Repco Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Repco. It starts with the parts. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Rizlo, high performance additives for high performance vehicles.